I'd like to do a demo on guiding you through the process of setting up your final course project. And I'm going to do that using a few different methods. I just have this title page up here to show you what the choices are. And you must have a minimum of 5 photographs or 5 material objects to be used in your project. You must have and you must use layer masks in this project. Okay, clean layer masks are essential. So I'm going to go through the process of showing you how to set this project up. We're going to start out with recreating this image here. I'm going to start out with creating a new document. This will be our target final document. So Control N, and we're going to, let's see, the assignment calls for an 8-inch, tab down to 10, and it must be 300 pixels per inch. In addition to that, your character needs to be at least 8 inches tall. Hit OK here. I'm immediately going to save this. So I'll save this as, let's see, your last name, underscore, and week 382, and we will hit OK. There we have our final document. Now, this is our document that will bring everything into. So we're going to start out with initial sketch. So here's what we can do here. I'm going to select all. So Control A, Control C, and then when I hit Control W, it will close the document. And then I can immediately paste that document into the window. And I have a feeling that you do know this by now. So let me hit Tab to bring up all of my panels here. And I have the rulers showing for a good reason. They state that your character needs to be at least 8 inches tall. So let's do this. We're going to bring down a guideline. With your rulers showing, Control R, place a guideline down here. And I know that it's at the 9-inch mark here. And I'm going to set up the size of my sketch to be 8 inches tall. I'm using my rulers here to know where I can bring my guides down to. So I know that if I bring it to the 1-inch mark, this now will be 8 inches tall, and I can prove that by going up to where these rulers meet and clicking right where they meet in that gray little square in the corner and clicking and dragging down here. See these crosshairs? Once I let go, my origin point of 0 will change to wherever I let go. Note here that it's at 0 and 0. So if I click and drag this out here, my origin point of 0 will start here and here, wherever I let go. So I'm going to simply drag it down to here, and I'm just bringing it to here to make sure that this is 8 inches tall, which is what it is. I'm now going to make sure layer 1 is active, which is my sketch layer, and I'm going to hit Control T. What's going to happen is your bounding box will be outside of the document window. So once you hit Control T, I'm now going to also hit Control 0. That will fit the document in the window, but if it has a bounding box, it will also fit the bounding box. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on any corner and start dragging in. As I'm dragging, I'm holding down the Shift key. That will constrain the width and height. And I'm just approximating here visually where I want it to be, because I can see here that now if I drag this down here, so now my size for my character is set up. I'm going to hit Enter to apply that transformation and then go to my images here. So let's just take a quick walkthrough with these images here to show you what we're working with. So I've got all the tabs open up here. So I'm going to click on one. So we've got all these photographs that have been taken, very good quality photographs. And if you'll note here, the sizes of some of these are fantastic to work with. They're very good quality. So if I Alt or Option click on the document window here, I'll see that this is in fact a 300 pixel per inch file by 43 by 29 inches. This is a tremendous size file. So she must have taken this with a digital camera that had a lot of megapixels in it. This is in fact a 332 meg file. Tremendous. We don't need anything that big, but you're better off having something that's too large than too small. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to not even bother going through all these. I'm going to Control A, Control C, Control W to close out of the document. And this is going to take a little longer to process because these are very large files. And I'm going to hit No and go to my final document and Control V to paste. Okay, now what you see is not what you really have. Okay, we just pasted that document into our final document. let's look at how large this is. I'm going to hit Control T and then Control 0. Our bounding box extends all the way out here. I'm now going to click and start dragging in, and I'm going to hold down my Shift key to constrain, and I'm going to go approximately to the width there of the document and hit Enter to apply that transformation. Now my computer is a rocket ship and it still takes a while to process. So we've got one file in there. And now we'll go to the next file. Control A, Control C, Control W, Control V, Control T, free transform, Control 0, and then I'm going to go to my corner bounding box, click, drag in towards the center while holding down Shift. Keep in mind you want to click and start dragging and then hold down Shift. And now I'll hit Enter to apply my transformation, and I'll go to the next image. Control A, C, W, V. V to paste. Control V. Control T, free transform. Click and start dragging in. Hit Enter. Now I'm zoomed way out, and I'm purposefully staying there because I know all of these documents will be very large. So I'll go to the next document here. Control A, C, W, and V, and Control T. So you get into a rhythm here. The idea is, first of all, let's just say that one of these files was not 300 pixels per inch, and you copied and pasted it into your final document. Anything that you paste into a document will become the resolution of the target document. Okay, I'm going to pause the video now and bring everything else in. You understand the process now. Okay, so now we'll resume. I've brought all of my layers in here, all of my files in here, and I've got them all in separate layers. And we're going to go to the next step. So what I'll first do is get rid of the guidelines. Okay, I don't need them anymore, so I'll go to View, Show, and uncheck the guides. And now what I'll do is look at my layers palette, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to use the technique that you guys learned, which is Alt-clicking on the visibility icon to hide all layers except for that layer. And what I'll also do is, since this is on its own separate layer, okay, so I'm going to merge this down with the background layer by selecting that layer, and Control E will merge that down with the layer below. So that's Control E. I have my sketch here, and now I'm going to go to the first step. Show the layer above, which is the tongs here, and the tongs are meant to be in this portion right here, and we'll worry about stacking the layers or restacking the layers later on. So this is a method that you want to pay close attention to. I'm going to show that layer and select that layer. I'm then going to just quickly go through the following process here. We're going to create layer masks for each layer, and just to get things easier when you get started, to see what you've got going on, I'm going to use my lasso tool to start dragging, and then I'm holding down the Alt key. The Alt key allows me to let go of my mouse and not stress out about clicking and drawing, using your mouse to draw. Okay, so that allows me to create this rubber band and just click, 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 and I'm just clicking a rough shape outside of the tongs here. And then I'm going to click on the layer mask icon. And you've got an instant layer mask. It kind of makes it easier to see. You don't have to carefully focus on getting this perfect for now. So you just want to get your sizes set up. So now what I'll do is free transform this and scale this. And I'm going to Control T. That puts a bounding box around the outside of that file here. So now I'm going to do this. Control T. Bounding box that allows me to rotate and scale, clicking and dragging, and then Shift key and the Alt key will scale into the center point, and that allows me to zoom down. I'll hit Enter to apply that transformation, and we're ready to go to the next step. I'm going to hit Control 0 first and select the next layer. Once again, lasso tool. I think this is a quick way of setting up your images so that you can see basically what you have. You may want to rephotograph something. Perspective is very hard to get the first time. Some of these are a little out of perspective. And now I'm going to click on the layer mask icon, and we've got our layer mask attached to the photo. I'm now going to hit Control T, Control 0, because it happens to fall outside, and I'm going to start dragging and Shift. So Shift dragging will keep it constrained, and you'll note that this is the location. All right, so it's a matter of clicking, dragging, holding down the Shift key, and letting go of your cursor first before the Shift key. If you let go of the Shift key first, it will jump out of constrainment. Once you let go with your mouse, you can let go of the Shift key and hit Enter to apply the transformation, and you're ready to go to the next step. Okay, so I'm ready to move forward. I've gone to all my layers, created my layer masks, and scaled these images down accordingly. So let's talk about the rolling pin here. I need to scale that down. So if I select that and hit Control T, let's just zoom in a little bit here. Remember I spoke about the center point here? Here's how you could use that to your advantage. You can move this center point. Let me just show you this before I do this. I want the rolling pin handle to meet and stay here. So I'm going to show it again. So that's in place. If I hit Control T, I can move that center point to that point there, and it will scale into that point. So I click and start dragging, hold down my Shift. I now can scale that to that point here. All right, so that's where it could be of benefit to you. You also have some decisions to make with regards to scaling. For example, in this case, the rolling pin in the sketch looks pretty thick. You can exaggerate this a bit. So if I hit Control T, I can click and drag upward, and if I hold down Alt, it will once again scale out from the center point, and I can thicken that up a bit if I want. So I can stretch reality a little bit here. Now, this, I'm going to be able to show you a few different methods here. It's a little involved in one sense, but once you get this principle down, you'll be home free. With the paintbrush tool selected, your layer mask selected for that layer, black is your foreground color, and you're going to select a brush that is 100% hardness, and a brush size that will be approximately, it's going to vary depending on your needs. I'm hitting my left bracket key to reduce the size of my paintbrush. And what we're going to do is use a shift-click method to paint this. Anytime you have these straight lines, this is where it comes into play here. So I'm looking at the circle edge, and I'm resting it right against the shape. And I'm going to click once, and whoops, my opacity for my paintbrush was at 38%, so let me increase that to 100. And now once I click, I can now shift-click down here. And shift clicking in short distances, now my shift key is held down, I'm able to go around, and since I have a straight line here, I can shift click over here. All right, I'm shift clicking in short distances here. All right, and that got a really good cutout there. So I'll come up here and I can click and shift click. I'm not even going to reduce my brush size. And that allows me to, very carefully, I'm looking at the edge of my circle now. And this is the kind of thing where you cannot make a mistake. So let's just say I make a mistake, I go in here. All right, later on, yes, you could undo it, but later on, if you hit X to swap your foreground and background colors, and then click and drag with your paintbrush, you bring the image back. All right, so they call this non-destructive editing for a reason. So I'm going to hit X again to swap my foreground and background color. And with black as my foreground color, I'm going to start the process again by clicking and shift clicking. All right, let me hold down my space bar and clicking and dragging. And now I'm going to shift click here. I want to talk about taking advantage of using the elliptical marquee tool. We're going to use that as a guide to paint with. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to click and drag. And I'm going to also, I want to reposition my selection. So my cursor is held down, and I'm going to now hold down my space bar, which will allow me to click and drag with my cursor to reposition my selection. So I'm looking at that edge there of the funnel. I'm letting go of my space bar now, and I'm clicking and dragging down. I was looking at this edge here. And now I can increment it up and over with my arrow keys. It's not perfect. Now just understand this as a principle now. So I have this selected. I'm now going to inverse the selection so that everything outside is selected. So select, inverse, with my layer mask selected or active and my paintbrush tool active. I'm now going to click and drag and use that selection as a guideline to paint along here. That worked out nice. Do you see what I did there? I'll do the same thing over there. I can move a selection as long as I'm in any selection tool. I can move a selection without moving pixels. I'm going to now click and drag and see if that matches up over there. I can use part of it. All right, so back again with my paintbrush tool, and I'm clicking and dragging, and I'm using that oval selection as a guide. All right, I'm going to deselect and do the same procedure again. I'm going to click and drag, and holding down the space bar allows me to reposition. I can click and drag, and I'm looking to line that up with the base of the funnel. I'll zoom in. I'm off a little bit on the left side here, and the right side looks excellent. So I'll go to my paintbrush tool, inverse the selection, because if I paint now, this is what's going to happen. I want the opposite of that. So I'm going to undo, Control Z, and Shift F7 to inverse the selection. Now I can use that as a guideline to paint along on the layer mask. Now when it comes over here, what I can do is go back to a selection and increment this over to the left a little bit. So I'm hitting my left arrow key, and that kind of lines it up perfectly. And I'll now go back to my paintbrush and continue to paint. And there you go. You may even want to distort this just in case this curve doesn't match your needs here. Once again, Control T, clicking and dragging down, all right, and holding down the Alt key too, allows me to extend the funnel up. Okay, this demo worked out to be a lot longer than I thought it would be, but a lot of these details are important, and I hope you've picked up something new. And just remember one other very important thing that I have not done as I've gone along in this demo, and that is to save often. Save, save, save. Every minute. It's nothing to hit Control S or Command S, okay, and it may save you a lot of lost effort. All right, okay guys, so I hope you gained some new knowledge from this, and I'll see you guys in the discussion area. Bye.